Hey guys, welcome to Sippin' and Spillin' with Sid from 3 Mississippi. How y'all doing today? Just got back from church. Go ahead. Bunko has got to be in my lap at least for a minute every time I sit down on the front porch, and I'm not mad at it. Just got back from church. I actually had a little meeting after church. I'm very excited. I'm very honored to have been asked to head up the outreach committee of our church. As you guys know, I share on here sometimes some of the things, the events and things that I'm involved in at church, and also sometimes discuss it on lives. I generally don't talk about it on 3 Mississippi just because in regular videos, because it's not, relevant to what we're doing kind of thing. But, on lives and in here, we talk a little bit more about, kind of what's going on in our regular life, and our church life is very important. It's a big part of our faith and our involvement in the community. And, the fruit of the Spirit and everybody having their own gifts with relationship to that is something that I really find interesting. And I think that my gift is more closely related to like hospitality and outreach and that kind of thing. And that's a way that I can bring people closer to Christ. And to me, part of that is being a demonstration, right? It's not accosting you on the street and shoving my religion down your throat. It's me coming to you and saying, hey, how was your week? What's going on? You look upset. Did you have a rough week? Like, let's talk about it. Do you mind if I pray over you? Like, that's the kind of thing that the humanity of it and the kindness of it, I think, is what's important to spread and to get people to open their hearts and minds to that, to Christianity, to Jesus. But more importantly, before that, I think comes the love and philosophy that leads you to that. Anyway, so I've been asked to take over the outreach committee, and I'm very excited about it. There's a bunch of things that fall under the category, two of which I'm all really very heavily involved in. One being our pantry boxes that we do monthly, and the other being the one that I'm actually in charge of, which is the soup night, which is the Christmas parade. And we open up our Family Life Center to the entire community. Obviously it's a lot of people that come from our church, but it's a lot of people that come from the community that come in, and we serve soup and, get to visit with people a little bit. And it's a nice welcoming thing on a chilly night that's involving the whole town. I love it. I look forward to it every year. And it's really exciting. So I'm really excited that I have been asked to do this new opportunity. And I think that, as Miss Tammy, who was handing the reins over to me, said, she said, I trust that the Holy Spirit will guide you in this, to take it to the next level, to make it better than I could, and to advance it. And I pray that that is true. We're very open with our faith on our channel. I mean, I don't think that you could watch a few of our videos and not know that who we are at our core and what we stand for. That being said, it's not something that we are trying to, at least not like shove down your throats and tell you that you're wrong if you don't think that the way we do. But also, I'm going to stand firm in my beliefs and in my faith, and that's the way it is. I do want to address something that came up this week, obviously, after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I made a sippin' and spillin' where I was very upset and very impassioned. It was very raw. I sat down and did that pretty quickly. I will say this, I stand behind everything I said. I didn't say anything that was incorrect, in my opinion, and from my point of view. If you have a different opinion or a different point of view, you're welcome to start your own channel just the same as we have. That being said, and I discussed this with Dwayne from the Williamsons, and wanted to, with his, like, hey, you do you, boo. I wanted to get this out here. While I do stand behind everything I said, I think that perhaps some of the things that I said may have been taken incorrectly, specifically when I was mentioning the narrative of headlines and certain stories being kind of hushed aside because they didn't fit the narrative. Specifically in regards to the incident with that lovely young Ukrainian gal that had recently come to the United States and was brutally attacked and murdered on that train. I will preface this with saying you cannot have a country without law and order. You can't. There will always be people that will do bad things. The higher the population of people that you have, the chances that you are going to have a higher population of people that are not following the law, it grows, right? The whole number is going to grow. So that number is going to grow too. And you could look at that for any section of things that you want to compare. It's going to get bigger, right? That being said, some people, it has come to my attention, may have taken that as I was referring to the race of the two individuals that were on that train, the woman that was killed and the man that did the killing. That's not what I was referring to. I was referring to, which I did not make clear in the video, I was referring to the fact that we have a lot of lawlessness in a lot of areas, and we have been very soft in crime the last several years specifically. There have been multiple incidences across the board where somebody has been arrested and released for very, 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 very violent crimes. Very, violent armed robberies, violent assaults, all of these things. Do I think that a lot of these individuals have mental health issues? Yes. Do I think that there's other issues? Yes. I'm not addressing any of that. That is an issue that is tied to this, no doubt. But my point is that a lot of the mainstream media tends to push a certain narrative of everything's fine, we don't need help, there's no crime, everything's peachy, and they leave out certain details to make the story seem not as bad, i.e. kind of burying this story initially and it not coming out for, I want to say it was 2 weeks after it happened that I heard about it, and that most people heard about it. This was somebody who'd been charged with violent crimes, I think, and released, I want to say it was 14 times. I could be wrong on those numbers. But that is a broken system. That break in our law and order allowed somebody who had come to this country for safety and to better themselves to be murdered in the blink of an eye. And there was another example a couple days later of the guy that beheaded somebody at the hotel. I think it was his boss at the hotel, who, I don't know what his immigration status was specifically. I've heard contradictory things on that, and in all fairness, have not dove in to research it. But he also had violent criminal charges against him. There's a reason that countries have law and order. And that's what I'm referring to. You know, there's some places like California, like my home state, that don't want the National Guard in there, and they don't want their cities cleaned up, and they want, you know, the federal government to stay out of it. And I get that. I tend to agree with smaller government. But when everything's a mess and lawlessness has been allowed to take over, you have to get in there and you have to pinpoint it and you have to deal with it. And there's some growing pains with that, I think. And that being said, it has nothing to do with race or creed. I have friends that are of many different races and many different creeds. That doesn't mean that I love them any less as a person. I may not agree with them on everything. Dwayne and I discussed this last night. I have never met another human being that I agree with everything that they have ever said or done on the planet, and I'm not likely to anytime soon. That's just the reality of it. But that doesn't mean that I then have hate in my heart for you because we don't see eye to eye on every single thing, right? There's more that unites us, and there's more that makes us similar as a whole than that separates us. Again, that not taking into account extremists on both sides, right? You got wackadoos in every flavor, right? And they received some hate this week. And the Williamsons were under the impression that it was not necessarily because of something that I said, but that maybe it gave permission for others to express their hate towards them. And I want to make it very, very clear that not only do I not condone that, but I can't, that doesn't sit right with my heart. That anything that I could have said or done would cause them pain, even if it's by proxy of somebody else taking what I said incorrectly. So I want to be crystal freaking clear. I stand on everything I said in the other day's video. Was I impassioned when I made it? Yes. But I think that's okay. It's okay to be passionate about something, and it's okay to speak directly and stand on business. And that's what I did. However, I wanted to clarify that we have let law and order slide to the point where when a heinous assassination is committed in public, you have many, many people that see it as an excuse to rejoice, an excuse to revel in hatred and pain, and to point fingers that, well, that person deserved it, or whatever the reasoning is. We have made excuses for lawlessness, which allows things like that to happen. Like women getting murdered on the train, like someone getting shot in front of a bunch of college students. That is a symptom of that. And the lawlessness has been encouraged with rhetoric and phrases that have allowed people to feel like it's okay to demonize another human being. Do I think that the people that commit these kinds of acts are good people? No. But something my pastor said today is that grace is scandalous. Grace is scandalous. Think about that. Grace is not something that we deserve. It's not something that we can earn. It's something that is given no matter our status, We are all the same at the end. And if you come to Christ, that grace is given to you. Whether you were the best person on earth and did nothing but charity work, or you were the lowest of the low that committed awful acts. God's grace is scandalous because it's not fair. Whoa. So all the hateful comments that I see people making, and all the things that I shake my head at and my flesh recoils at because I can't stand behind what they're saying, and I can't understand any level of humanity that would allow them to say those things. It's not for me to judge that in the end. I can be upset about it. It doesn't mean that I don't pray for those people. I do. I pray that they find their humanity in their heart and they open themselves up to love and the Lord's grace. But that doesn't mean that's going to happen. And it doesn't mean that we have to accept treatment or behavior that is hateful towards us or out into the ether. That being said, the Williamsons are our friends. They're new friends, but they're our friends. I like the fact that, like I've said before, I don't want to be in an echo chamber and only hear my own thoughts and ideas and whatever. I have never liked that. I've always listened, read, watched all sides. And not just the soundbite clip it. If I see the soundbite clip and I go, that doesn't sound right, I go search for the whole thing so I can see exactly what that person said. Because 9 times out of 10, whatever was posted to fit a certain agenda, a certain narrative, and was taken out of context. Sometimes I then agree with what was said, and sometimes I still disagree with what was said. Or sometimes the converse of that. So, Dwayne and I had a very frank discussion last night, and obviously he and I have very different points of views on some things. We have different life experiences. But that doesn't mean that at the end of it, we can't sit down and have a beer. And that we can't still have those discussions. And I can't say, you know what, I don't agree with that, but I can see where you're coming from, and vice versa. That is where it starts. Discussion. Listening. We all have to put our listening ears on. Right? And being open to that. Because no one's 100% right, no one's 100% wrong when it comes to their opinions or their feelings on things. Statistics, facts, there's certain things that you can't argue, right? When you're presented with those things. So that being said, like I said, I've never met somebody that I agree with 100% of the time on every single thing. I don't agree with Mike on every single thing. And I'm married to the man, right? It goes without saying, in my mind, it should go without saying, but I will say it anyway for those that don't get the connection. It doesn't mean that I believed in every single thing that Charlie Kirk ever said. But I liked what he was doing. I liked that he was spreading the gospel. I liked that he backed up what he was saying with statistics and facts and those things that give us that foundation for which to build our opinions on, right? So anyway, I regret that anybody felt the need to leave any nasty comments on their page. They are not people that want to discuss their religious status or their political status publicly. And I respect that. I respect that. That is their choice, and it's nobody's business. We are not beholden to anybody to share what is personal to us unless we want to in a public forum, right? And so I would have a call for civility, and I would denounce anyone that would leave a nasty comment at them that is, whether it's racially motivated or in any other way, because that's not what we do. That's not what we should do as humans, right? So I just want to leave that there. You know, I'm very grateful for their friendship. I'm very grateful for the candid conversation that he and I had last night. It actually prompted me to do some reading this morning on something that I wasn't very familiar with. And I found it very interesting, and I want to dig in on it a little bit more. It's a little different than I thought it was, but you know, he brought it to my attention. I'm like, oh no, I want to research that a little more. And that's how it should be. So anyway, hate on either side, which again, I mentioned in the first video, is bad. Being impassioned and feeling strongly about your convictions is fine, as long as I'm not turning around and saying, well, you deserve everything that's coming to you and you're an awful human being and wishing bad things on you. No, I should look at you and say, I don't agree with you at all. I cannot believe you would say such hateful things, but I will pray for you. And that's the difference. So I'm praying that this message finds you all in good health and of open heart, and that you're really able to hear what I just said, because I have seen, you know, some not nice comments across the board. You know, so I think we just have to keep that in check. Doesn't mean you can't stay angry. Doesn't mean you can't stay loud. It just means you still have to have compassion for humanity, and to try every day in some way to bridge that gap. And I'm very grateful for my church family, and the love that I received from them this morning. And I pray that other people feel that in their congregation and in their church family, because it truly is life-changing. So I wish you all a blessed rest of your day. And remember, guys, safety's off.